Welcome back to The Explainer. All right, today we're diving into what is arguably the most intense, adrenaline-fueled, and honestly, heartbreaking set piece of the entire campaign so far. We're zeroing in exclusively on the events of Session 8. If you've been following along, you know the pressure has been building big time. The stakes, never higher. The dice, absolutely ice cold. And the consequences, well, they're permanent.
We're dropping right into the action, right into the thick of it. Picture this. The Shrine of Savras is completely ablaze, and our heroes are totally scattered. You instantly feel the sheer terror of this situation, right? I mean, you are trapped on a burning roof 40 feet in the air, and down below, an entire army of orcs and ogres, completely out for blood. This isn't just your standard combat encounter, guys. This is a desperate, claws-out fight for survival where every single second counts.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this number right here is literally everything. 42. After taking some seriously heavy fire on his way up, we're talking eating magic missiles and arrows, Wiffer Brightblade, our ASMR fighter, lands on the roof sitting at exactly half health. And because he's mid-transformation, the clock is ticking loud. He has exactly 7 turns left of his celestial form. That is 42 seconds. Just 42 seconds to figure out a way off a burning 40-foot roof before his divine wings just give out, leaving him totally defenseless against the horde.
Section 1. The Pocket Dimension fails. Chaotic energies disrupt Vitrovia's sanctuary.
So while Wiffer is isolated way up high, we gotta look at what the rest of the party is up to. Boris, Radir, Vitrovia, Bajak, and Sister Langlin are desperately trying to hide. Their big escape plan? Retreating into the pocket dimension inside Vitrovia's moon energy bag. But you know, magic is super volatile, and sanctuaries are rarely foolproof. The mechanics of Vitrovia's bag are rooted in this pure, calming moon energy. So what actually happens when you force a conflicted, highly chaotic entity, like Radir, who's literally housing the raging infernal spirit of Zarthos, into a space of pure tranquility? Well, it breaks. The dimension starts showing unprecedented signs of distress, just tearing at the seams of the magic. It simply can't handle the conflicting energies, so it violently spits the heroes right back out into the burning chaos of the shrine. The only one allowed to stay inside? Sister Langlin, simply because her energy is peaceful.
But Sister Langlin doesn't just sit by idly. Right before the bag ejects Boris, she desperately grabs him by the pants, literally, to deliver this absolute gut punch of a plea. That altar is possibly the last altar to Savras that exists in Faerun. Without his presence, I fear to think what lies and misinformation running rampant could mean. Talk about a reality check. This completely reframes the entire encounter. It's no longer just about escaping a fire, it's about saving the very concept of truth in Faerun. Savras' presence in the mortal realm is hanging by a literal thread, and if this altar burns to the ground, the God of Truth loses his foothold completely.
Faced with this massive divine responsibility, Boris makes a super fascinating tactical choice. He completely ignores the orc army outside and focuses 100% on the fire inside. He casts Wall of Wind, using that gale force magic to literally part the roaring flames. It creates this narrow, temporary path, and Bajak, the swashbuckler, seizes the moment, scurrying directly to the altar. He's frantically looking for a secret exit underneath, but he finds absolutely nothing. Well, nothing except a stash of gold and a really tantalizing note hinting that the bell in the belfry above them is made of solid gold. So yeah, no escape route, but a whole lot of treasure. Classic D&D, right?
Section 2. Forging the Moonfire when a druid and a ghost rider combine.
And this brilliantly illustrates how necessity breeds incredible creativity at the table. With the shrine actively burning around them and the orcs closing in fast, Vitrovia and Rita realize they just can't fight as isolated units anymore. So they pull off an absolute hype moment, a tag team maneuver that literally redefines the battlefield. Just picture this wild contrast. You have Vitrovia tapping into her Circle of the Moon powers, transforming into a massive, primal direwolf. And then you have Reader totally giving into his infernal pact and unleashing the Ghost Rider, Zarathos. You've got natural earthly magic slamming headfirst into raging demonic hellfire, and right there in the courtyard they fuse together. Reader mounts the direwolf, and they become a single, devastating entity.
The way the Dungeon Master handled the tabletop mechanics of this wild fusion, which they dubbed Moonfire, by the way, is just fascinating. They operate on a single initiative, lower to match whoever was slower. They share a single pool of movement. But their action economy, it is staggering. We're talking 2 actions and 2 bonus actions per turn. Engulfed completely in this moonlight white fire, every single combined attack they land has a terrifying, frightening effect on the enemy. It's a spectacle of absolute devastation just tearing right through the orc front lines.
Section 3. The Fall of Wiffer Brightblade. A tragic end to a celestial flight.
Now, Dungeons & Dragons is a game of balance.
And for every epic, cinematic high, there is usually a brutal, grounding low. We really have to slow down here for a second. Because while Moonfire is raging below, up on the roof, the terrifying reality of Wiffer's situation is finally catching up to him. Let's methodically break down what went wrong. Wiffer is stranded, and as we established, he started this sequence at half health. Those 42 seconds of celestial flight, they run out. He is now completely surrounded by the encroaching orc army. In a desperate bid to survive, he attempts a tactical retreat. He tries to pull away. But, man, the dice are just unforgiving. He triggers an opportunity attack, and the Dungeon Master rolls a critical hit. The damage is absolutely massive. Wiffer goes down. It's the sensory details here that make this moment so visceral and so tragic. The whole table falls dead silent as the DM describes it. Wiffer is bleeding out on the roof. An orc stands over him, letting out this cruel, mocking laugh. And then, with terrifying finality, plunges a javelin directly into the downed hero's side. Wiffer Brightblade, the scion of Iron X, the Aasimar fighter desperately searching for his twin sister, is dead. It's the campaign's devastating first major character death, and it happens in the literal blink of an eye.
Section 4. The Jenga Tower of Fate. The dread mechanics of a burning shrine.
Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how the DM keeps the pressure on. The shock of Wiffer's death is hanging heavy over the table, but the game world doesn't stop. The shrine is still burning. So to simulate the collapsing roof, the DM introduces a real-world tabletop dread mechanic that completely changes the atmosphere in the room. They aren't just rolling dice anymore, they are pulling blocks from a physical Jenga tower placed right smack in the middle of the table. Every single block pulled represents the literal structural integrity of the 40-foot burning roof they're standing on. If the tower topples, a section of the roof collapses, sending anyone on it plummeting straight into the inferno below. To figure out how many blocks a player has to pull on their turn, they have to roll a d4. Which brings us to this absolutely terrifying number, 8. Remember, back in Session 7, it was actually Ritter who accidentally started this whole fire with a straight Eldritch Blast. So, seeking atonement, Ritter steps up. He rolls his d4 and gets 4 pulls. Then, looking right at Boris, he makes a choice. He sacrifices his own safety and volunteers to take Boris's 4 pulls as well. Ritter has to make 8 consecutive pulls on a tower that is already structurally compromised. No pressure, right?
Let's trace this timeline of sheer anxiety because it is wild. Point 1. Ritter makes his first 4 pulls. The player's hands are steady, the wood slides out, the tower sways a bit but holds. Point 2. He takes on Boris's burden. Pulls 5, 6, 7, and 8. The tension at the table is literally suffocating. One wrong millimeter and it's a total party kill. But he does it. 8 flawless pulls. And because of this incredible real-world success, the DM rewards them in-game. Ritter, fully channeling Zarathos, cinematically absorbs the raging inferno into his own infernal body. The fire goes out, the final altar of Savras is saved.
So what does this all mean? The flames have been extinguished, and the immediate structural threat is over. But the reality of the situation is just setting in. Wiffer Brightblade is gone. The Moonfire has faded, and outside the walls of the shrine, the surviving orcs and ogres are still waiting for them. The heroes managed to save the Altar of Truth, but at the ultimate cost of one of their own. What on earth will this fractured mourning party do next? That is a huge question we'll be diving into next time. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep your dice warm.